And welcome back. It's the end of the year. Why am I singing? Don't know. I just am. But it's the end of the year. December 31st of 2023, the last day of 2023. We are only, what here? 5.5, I know, about 6.5 hours away from the end of the year going into 2024. And this comes to us from JRC. I didn't plan, by the way, for anything special. This is just the one that came up. Harry Potter, the boy who lived. What would a Pokemon team for this type of guy look like? This is really odd for me because Harry's got 7 books to plus what 8 movies. 7, actually, no, he's got 8 books. That's right, because there's also because it's Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, Deathly Hallows, and then The Cursed Child. That was right, The Cursed Child. That's the 8th book, which I don't know if they'll ever do as a movie. But point being is that we have all those books. So, and you have literally years between most of those books. You have Wizarding World. You have his upbringing between the Wizarding World and his normal life. This was a hard team to actually put together in many ways. I'm like, what aspects do I take from his life? What aspects of him do I try to apply? What exactly would his team look like? So let's get to it. First and foremost, you can't do a Harry Potter character without getting something that symbolizes the house that they represent. In his case, Gryffindor. The immediate problem with that is there is nothing even really remotely close to a Griffin. The closest thing to this day I think I could find for a Griffin would be either Titanol or Savali. Probably Savali because its head is more bird-like. But that's more of a true chimera than it is an actual Griffin. A Griffin is more 2 parts together. That's it. Lion and eagle. That's it. Whereas Savali is at least 5 different things put into one body. So, all right, I can't do an exact comparison, one-to-one comparison of Griffin for Gryffindor, but I can at least go a little bit leaning into one of those aspects. So we go either the eagle or the lion. Seeing as lion is usually described as more the idea of bravery and courage, although eagles can definitely represent that too, I went with the lion aspect, and therefore Pyroar makes it onto his team. You can make an argument that upon entering Gryffindor, you get maybe one of several Pokemon to add to your team if you don't already have teams in a Harry Potter Pokemon combined universe kind of thing. And what Harry got was a male Litleo, and that ultimately turned into a Pyroar. I think that can make a lot of logical sense. Speaking of which, one of the Mon that he probably also would have acquired along the way is the actual witching/wizarding Pokemon, Braixen. Now, I didn't go Delphox, even though Delphox is more the sorcerer mage, because Harry, for all of his good quality strengths and whatnot, I don't see him having a fully evolved Pokemon, at least not until maybe like he hit the epilogue of the series. I don't see him having a fully evolved Pokemon like a Delphox, who is a full-on sorcerer mage. The reason I don't see that is due to the fact that Harry, like I said, never actually graduated, never finished school. While he was very powerful, he still couldn't actually beat Voldemort in a straight hand-to-hand or one-to-one fight, as it were. In fact, he was still much weaker than most of his actual superiors. That's not to say, though, that he would be completely and utterly incompetent. That's why he gets Braixen, because A, comes with his own little wand, and B, it's a mid-stage evolution. So Harry, it represents Harry still kind of learning the trade a bit as he's going along, but still being very capable. But beyond that, though, you can't have Harry with his lovely little companion, who sadly didn't make it, I think, in, Deathly Hallows, Hedwig. Now, sadly, right now, when you actually think about this for a second, we only have 2 different owl Pokemon. We have the Noctowl and Hoot line, and we have the Rowlet line. Sadly, none of the Rowlet line really works well, I think, for Hedwig, because Hedwig was a snow owl. There is no snow owl, but I am surprised, maybe next, because I've heard, one of the rumors someone has speculated on, and apparently there is evidence for, is that the Netherlands could be the next place we go for a Pokemon region. believe me, I'd be down for that well before I'd be down for like another Japan region. I don't care about any Japan regions anymore. We've done them. They were fun. I will admit though, Hoenn is my favorite region, but I will admit, like Sinnoh, I think Sinnoh is really overrated. Actually, Sinnoh, I don't hate any Pokemon game or any region or anything like that. I just think Sinnoh is very overrated. And once you go into the realm of other places besides Japan, it's really hard to justify going back to Japan when you have all this culture around you in the world from the Netherlands or India or China or Africa or Australia or South America or Indonesia or Canada or all the other sections of the US or Russia. Like, there's so much in the world that you could do that I just find it almost inconceivable that Game Freak, for the problems they do have, would be stupid enough to go back to Japan, even if it is the 10th anniversary. I get it, 10th anniversary, but guess what? For 10th anniversary, or not 10th anniversary, like 30th anniversary, and Gen 10, that's what it was, allegedly. So, not allegedly Gen 10, but I believe allegedly what people are speculating is that you might wait until the 30th anniversary, so wait an extra year. Point being, though, I get it, but I'll be honest. Well, I'll still get the games. I probably would actually be pretty disappointed if it was a Japan-based region. I don't buy. I'm going off on a tangent. I'll get back to the video in a second. I don't buy the idea that, oh yeah, Kitakami, it just showed us Gen 10 where we're going. No, it didn't. Why do you think that? That makes no logical sense. There is no reason Game Freak would ruin their promotional campaign for the new generation, which is always hype and always something we look forward to, by just going back to something we got in a previous DLC. That's just, I do not get that logic. Now, I get wanting to maybe explore more to Kitakami, but I don't understand why people think returning to other generations is what they're going to do in the next generation. That makes no sense. That's not the point of a new generation. All this runs back to the point I made earlier, is that I thought Noctowl was the best Hedwig stand. And then maybe next generation we'll get like a Snowy Owl form of Noctowl. Because otherwise, we need a Snow Owl. We need a Snow Owl. It's probably one of the only really identifiable different species of owls out there. It would make sense. So with that said, now we got into some more difficult stuff, like aspects of Harry's life. One thing that Harry is extremely well known for is his Quidditch abilities. He is a seeker on the team. Now, I could have gone something like a Passimian to start with, but I'm like, no, that'd be more not the bludgers, but the beaters, but the guys, the main crew who are throwing the main ball around. That would be what Passimian would be. So wait, let me think about that. There's nothing I could really do for a broom. There is just no broom-based Pokemon. There's no flying Pokemon that's something you can ride in the same manner as a broom. I mean, he has a Firebolt, but I'd be really pulling at straws on that one. But what is it about Quidditch I could use? Well, is there something I could use to represent the Flying Snitch? Or sorry, the Golden Snitch. And I'm thinking of that as like, okay, something small, something fast, that Harry could like theoretically catch and could be like that really speedster of the team. Because right now, his team isn't all that fast. And I ultimately fell upon, surprisingly, Miniors, particularly the yellow form of Minior. Now, there's an orange one you could maybe also use, but I went with the yellow form of Minior. That is because Minior isn't very fast when it has its shields up. But when shields down, it actually has a 120 base stat speed, which makes it hyper fast. Not the fastest by any stretch of the mean. I believe Regieleki holds that record right now for the fastest Pokemon around. At least in terms of base stat total with no modifiers. But yeah, Minior actually made a lot of sense. It's a rock type, even though not a steel type, which would be more appropriately suited for gold. It's still rock. It's still, minerals are ultimately what make up metals, and you could still argue that's gold. It's goldish yellow, so that works too. So ultimately, yeah, I think Minior for the Flying Snitch actually works. I keep saying Flying Snitch, Golden Snitch. It's not Snitch. It's Golden Stitch. I believe it is. I am saying Snitch. Golden Stitch. I believe it is. I think that made sense. Last two on the team, one of them was actually one of the very first ones I put on the team. This one I really debated on until I thought about it more. So, I'm going to go with the obvious one first. One of the things that makes 100% sense to have on the team is something to represent his Patronus. His Patronus obviously is the spell he uses to repel the Dementors. It is a very positive energy-fueled spell. It is very powerful. And his takes the form of a stag. And so, if we're talking about a powerful stag that would repel the dark, or dark tides, well, how about Xerneas, the fairy type that was introduced in Generation 6 in Pokemon as the mascot for Pokemon X, the legendary fairy type, solo fairy type, that has glowing crystals on it, is a representation of life and creation. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to have that as your Patronus representation. It's even blue, so that works. Oh, excuse me. If you hear me snorting, because I'm still sick. So, yeah, that made 100% sense for me. But the last one on team, it's also amazing, too, a giant chunk of this team is Gen 6. Like, half of it's Gen 6. How about that? But the last one on the team, this is where I was starting to rack my brains. Like, what could I do here? I mean, something to represent this, something, maybe I could try the invisibility cloak, I guess. But then I'm like, well, no. Even until the very last movie in the second to last book, the 7th book, Harry always had a connection to Voldemort that was forged when Voldemort attempted to kill Harry. That's just what happened. So, can I figure out a way to incorporate that? Something where, yeah, he'd have this mon on his team. Maybe he'd eventually get rid of it, or maybe he would kind of cleanse himself of Voldemort, but then still accept this part like this. We'll see something that'll always be with me to remind me, and I'll be sure to treat it as such. And so ultimately, I went with the superior. One, Voldemort's kind of the king a little bit, like he always thinks himself that way. 2, though, it represents the connection to Harry and Voldemort because of 3, Harry's a Parseltongue. Thanks to his connection to Voldemort, he is a Parseltongue. He can talk to snakes. He's done so multiple times. Now, I had a couple options for snakes, obviously. I could have gone Ekans or Arbok. I could have gone Viper. I could have gone Sandaconda or Silicobra. I believe that's all the snake Pokemon we really currently have. Hopefully we'll get another one next gen. But I went with Superior because except for Sandaconda, it's the it's the non-venomous option. Because the snake that always stands out to me most isn't the snake that isn't Nagini, isn't the snake that, Malfoy summoned in their duel. It's the snake that he let free from the zoo in the very first film and book. The one where it's just like, thanks. It's like, oh, you're welcome. And that was just basically a harmless, it was a big snake, but it was a harmless python. And so that, to me, I'm like, okay, it's got to be either Sandaconda or it's got to be Superior. It's got to be one of those two. There really isn't any other option, I think, in my mind, at any rate, to represent that. And so, yeah, I thought that was a good choice to put on the team. And so there you have it, everyone. You got Prior for Gryffindor, Noctowl for Hedwig, Minior for the Golden Stitch, Xerneas for Patronus, Braixen to represent the fact that he was a powerful wizard, but still had growing to do, and Superior for his connection to Voldemort. But last but not least, how balanced is this team? I didn't actually write this down, so I am doing this off the top of my head this time around, but it's not a very balanced team in terms of typing. You got 2 fire types on the team. One's a fire normal type. So Pyro does at least have an immunity to ghosts. You have a fairy type who is immune to dragons. It's also the only legendary on the team with the highest base stat total. It's resistant to dark. You have a flying rock type who's going to be immune to ground, as well as Noctowl, who's a normal flying type, who's immune to ghost and ground. And then you have a grass type in Superior, which is at least still a starter Pokemon with a decent base stat total, and if you know how to use it right. So it's one of my favorite ones because I love snakes. So I'm going to tell you right now, rock types wreck this team's shop. You have 2 fire types right out the gate who are weak to a rock. One of them's mono, one of them's normal, so that's not going to help. You have just a normal flying type, which is not going to have any use against, or not going to do well against rock. And you got a rock flying type, which at best will be neutral to rock. So rock types are automatically going to be a problem for this team. Even with Superior there to help kind of counteract that. If you get a rock type, say, I'm just going to let me get a random rock type. Oh, a rock type like, say, a Shuckle, which defenses are nuts, even if it is bug type. That thing's defenses are nuts. If you get a rock type like an Onyx, for example, or even a Steelix, ooh, that could be problematic, even with 2 fire types on the team. So there's that. Ground types are going to be a problem for the rock types. Electric types are going to be a problem for the flying types. Other than that, I mean, the big one is going to be rock types. Like I said, ground types might be a little bit problematic. Electric types might be a little problematic. Water types might be a little problematic. But they're not. Those types are only a real problem for the team if I think they can take on over half the team. When it's only 2 Mon that are threatened, they are issues more than they are problems. Or at least very minor problems. Because otherwise, I mean, there's not much they should be worried about. Steel types would be problematic as well, though, because only a third of this team are really properly equipped to handle steel types. And that also depends on the steel type. For example, if this is an Empoleon they're dealing with, they might be shit out of luck. Because steel types are going to wreck through your rock type in Minior. It's going to be completely resistant to anything Noctowl's throwing out there, as well as Superior, plus immunity to poison that Superior can learn. It is a major weakness to fairy types. So yeah, steel types are going to be extremely problematic for this team as well, because if even one of those fire types is taken down, or if it's a steel type that could be resistant to the fire type, like a steel ground type, aka Steelix, then you might be having some problems there. And that's not to say they would immediately lose or anything like that, but they would still have issues with dual type steel types, assuming that the individuals who can deal with steel are still active in the party. This, however, is just my opinion, however. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thanks for watching, though. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.